In a previous video, we covered F4 and F5, and in today's video, we're going to be looking at F6 and F7. So this is a summary sheet that includes some notes from F4 and F5 outcomes. It would be a great idea to take a note of these. I can complete calculations in the correct order, including powers and roots. So we've got 6 times 7 in brackets to the power of 2. So we're going to do 6 times 7, which is 42. Then we're going to raise it to the power of 2. 42 squared, remember, just means 42 times 42, which is equal to 1,764. Another question, we've got indices and a subtraction. We're going to do the indices first. So we need to do 7 cubed first, which means 7 times 7 times 7. That gives us 343. Then we need to bring the rest of it down. 343 subtract 43 gives us 300. Next one, we've got a indice, but we need to remember that we've also got a multiplication. First thing we're going to do is we're going to simplify what's inside of the root. So we're going to do 4 times 16, which is 64. Bring down the square root. If there is no number written there, remember there's an invisible 2. So square root of 64 just means two numbers that are the same that multiply to give you 64. That only can mean 8 times 8. So that means square root of 64 is equal to 8. Here are 3 questions for you to try now. Pause the video here. So for this question, you've got a bracket, then squared. If I simplify the bracket, I get 12. Square that becomes 144. For this question, you've got an indices and a subtraction. If I do the indices first and then subtract, I get 479. For this question here, you've got a cube root, but we must simplify so that it's easier to understand. 98 added 285 gives me 343. Cube root of 343 just means 3 numbers that multiplied to give me 343, and that can only be 7. That's the end of F6, and we are now ready to move on to F7. I can complete calculations in the correct order, including powers and roots. So as you can see in this question here, we've got 2 brackets. When we've got 2 brackets, we always start working from left to right. Just a lot easier to understand. So 45 subtracted 35 is going to give me 10. Bring the rest of it down, including the power of 2. Once I've done that, I've got an indices and a bracket. I'm going to do the bracket next. Now be really careful. Inside the bracket, you've got 1 cubed add 10. So we need to do the 1 cubed first. 1 cubed just means 1 times 1 times 1, which is just 1. Then bring the rest of it down. Once you've done that, you've got an indices and a bracket. The bracket comes next. That gives me a result of 11, and bring the rest of it down. Then we need to do the indices before the multiplication. So 100 times the 11 once I brought it down should give me 1,100 as my result. So here we've got a different type of question. So as you can see here, we've got a square root and a square present in the same question. So because they're both indices, it doesn't matter which one we start with. Previously, we've done left to right, but we're going to start from right to left. It should still give you the same answer. So if I simplify, I need to do 5 cubed divided by 5. That gives me square root of 25. Bring the rest of the information down. Once I've done that, I'm going to actually start working from left to right. So it doesn't really matter if you start with square root of 25 or 3 squared. 3 squared is going to give me 9, and then I'm going to bring down the rest of it. Then I've got indices I need to do first. So square root of 25 is 5, because 5 times 5 is 25. Bring the rest of it down. Then I'm going to add, because we are working from left to right, 14 subtract 20 gives me negative 6. Now be really careful, it's a negative 6 because you're subtracting a bigger number from a smaller number. Let's try another example here. So we've got an indices here. 2 to the power of 4 is 16. Bring the rest of the information down. Then we're going to tackle the 8 squared next. So if I do that, I get 64. Bring the rest of the information down. Then I need to multiply next, because multiply and divide are on the same level. But I'm going to start from left to right. 16 times 4 gives me 64. Bring the rest of the information down. Here we've got to do division before addition. So if I do that, I get 4. Bring the rest of it down. 4 add 64 is going to give me 68. Here's 3 questions for you to try. Pause the video here. Here's the solutions for the first question. So we're going to do 4 squared first, which is 16. Bring the rest of it down. 4 squared then is going to be 16. Bring the rest of it down. 16 times 60 is 960. Bring the rest of it down. Then we need to tackle the 960 divided by 5, which is 192. Bring the rest of it down. Add them together and you get 208. For the next question, we need to do -3 add 6. That gives us 3. Remember to bring the rest of it down, including the square. Then we're going to tackle the bracket next. We've got 2 to the power 4 subtract 3. So 2 to the power 4 subtract 3 gives us 13. Bring the rest of it down. Then 3 squared is 9. Bring the rest of it down. And when you multiply the 2, you get 117. For the final question, we need to do the 2 to the power 4 first. 16, bring the rest of it down. 6 squared is going to give us 36. Bring the rest of it down. Then 16 times 40 is 640. Bring the rest of it down. And then 640 divided by 4 is 160. And then when you bring it down and add them, you should get 196. And that's the end of F7. And in this video today, we covered both F6 and F7. Here's our beat the clock for today. Now, first part, you've got a definition, and then after that, you've got various type of questions. Now, for the last part, it says insert brackets to make the statement true. Now, you only need to insert 1 pair of brackets. You don't need to do more than that. For these questions, spend a maximum of 12 minutes and use the help of a timer to time yourself. Pause the video here. Here's the solutions. For the first question, it means the cube root of 125. Then you can see the next one is 25 and the one after that is -12. Pretty straightforward. Now for this question here, if there's no number, that means automatically square root of 4. So the answer is going to be 8. For the next question, we need to simplify inside the square root. Then the answer will give us 4. Finally, the brackets look as follows. You've got 2 add 6, which is 8. 8 times 10, which is 80. Next question, 7 add 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. And 16 times 3 is equal to 48. So you should have double checked that gives you the answer. That's the end of the video.